Hey everybody, Billy from Billy's Bike Adventures. Thanks for tuning in today and watching the video. Now, regular viewers of my channel will know that I've been doing a lot of winter riding this year. And whilst I've brought the bike back and given the bike a thoroughly good clean, I have not taken off the brake calipers and given the pistons inside a good clean. So if you want to know how to do that on your BMW GS, keep watching and let's get into it. Right, tools for the job today. Large flathead screwdriver, long nose pliers, a ratchet with a 13mm socket on it. You will need a T30 hex head. You will need some Loctite when we put the bolts back in, the brake caliper bolts, old toothbrush and some soapy water, and of course some towel to clean. So with that, let's get started. First things that we need to do is to remove the bolts here. So let's do that first of all. So with the 13mm socket, let's undo those. That's the first bolt. Good thing about doing this as well is that you can check your brake pads at the same time, see how they're wearing. So that's the top one. Right, so that's the caliper bolts out now. So let's remove the calipers. Right, that is disgusting inside there, absolutely filthy. The underneath and everything, that needs a thoroughly good clean. So next thing that we need to do now is to be able to take the brake pads out. And to do that, we've got a securing pin here, and we've got a hex head bolt in here as well. So the first thing to do is to remove that pin. Okay, so keep that in a safe place. And the next thing then is we need to take out the bolt which goes through the top of the brake pads in the caliper. So I'm going to put my T30 hex head on, and now I'm going to just remove this bolt here. Now there is a spring here as well, okay? There is a spring, okay? Essentially what you want to remember is that the lever on the spring, I'll show you it in a second, but the lever on the spring, take out that bolt. So there's a lever here, right? That needs to be at the top. You can just take that out. And there's a little arrow pointing upwards just to tell you that that needs to be pointing up, not down. So keep that in a safe place as well. And what we should be able to do now is just be able to pull out the brake pads. Now, when you pull these out, pull them out in a way that you remember how they go back in, okay? So keep the left one on the left, the right on the right, and keep them facing in the way that you want them to point. Now, just before I start to get to the point of cleaning, what I want to show you is the difference here on the brake pads, and this is indicative of how the pistons are working and the wear that you see. So this is the brake pad that sits on the left hand side of the caliper, okay, so you can see the clear grooves there. This is the one that sits on the right hand side of the caliper, so you can see that there's unequal wearing on the calipers, and that might just be because of the requirement and the need to clean these. So with the cleaning, we can see now that there's an awful lot of mess in there. So the first thing to do now, before I do anything else, is to leave everything as it is, but now to start cleaning this really, really well. So take your soapy toothbrush and just start getting in there and giving it a thoroughly good clean. Don't be shy with the water. and to get into every nook and cranny that you can. This is going to take me a while, so I'll come back in a minute. Right, that's one side done. Let's give it a thoroughly good clean now before I do the other side. Look at that, absolutely filthy. Now that that side's had a good clean, what I'm going to do now is the other side. Wow, they are filthy. Let's start at the top. Now, I am not a mechanic by trade. I'm not an auto electrician or anything like that. I don't do a job where I'm using my hands to do these types of things. But I want to learn how to do these so I can look after my bike and not rely on services and inspections by BMW. You should, for good practice, want to be able to do this yourself. So if you're a bit wary of it, take the plunge. It's very worthwhile, very rewarding to be able to do this yourself. Have a little bit of confidence in yourself. Make sure you research it, watch these types of videos, and then have the confidence to do it, because it's very rewarding, and you get to know your bike a lot better. Can get quite mucky, so make sure you've got a pair of gloves on as well, just to protect the hands. Right, that is looking a darn sight cleaner than what it was when I first started, so I'm much happier with that. Now that that's had a good clean inside, what I want to do now is I want to start to pull the brake lever. As you can see, the two pistons on the right of the caliper are sticking out more. Now that'll be because I've just wiggled them a little bit just to loosen off the brake pads. But what I want to do now is I want to start pulling on the brake lever, start pumping it, and just see how the pistons inside move. You should have them moving together, and as they come out more, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give the pistons a clean as they come out more as well. So what's happening at the moment, even just using the brake, there's only one piston that's coming out at the moment, and that is the bottom left one. That's a bit of a concern actually. It means that the top left is not moving at the moment, and neither are the two side ones. So I'm just going to pump a little bit more. Right, the top one now is starting to move, but I'm only getting movement right. They're all starting to move now. Now that they're all out, I'm going to give the side of those pistons a bit of a clean. Right, let's give that a dry and a clean. Right, I'm going to push the pistons back in. One at a time. So as I've pushed one in, the other one's popped out, so I'll give that bit that's popped out a bit of a clean, because there's some gunk on it. Right. It's very therapeutic, this actually. It's have the confidence to do it, have a go. The worst thing that you can do is not remember how to put it back together, or it's very hard to make a mistake with these types of things. So give yourself the opportunity to get to know your bike a bit better by cleaning your calipers on a regular basis, because yeah, these were absolutely filthy, like diabolically filthy. Right, so that's looking a lot cleaner in there now. I'm a lot happier. There's still a bit of cleaning to be done, just around the bottom bits here. Right, squeeze the brake caliper, the brake again. And what we should see now, right, all four calipers are starting to move together now. The top right one though, that one is not coming out as much. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to push the top caliper back in, and hopefully this is why one of my brake pads might be wearing more than the other. This top caliper up here, this top piston, sorry, up here is not moving like the other ones are. So that's a bit of a concern. So that might be something that I need to highlight to BMW. The brake pads don't need renewing yet, but that's something I might want to raise with BMW as a concern. So I'm going to continue to push in the other pistons. Right, so as I did that, the one at the top moved, so I'm going to push that one back in. One at the bottom moved slightly. So I'm going to do this bottom one now. Yeah, this one at the top has hardly moved. So it's moved a little bit, but it keeps getting stuck. So I've got to speak to BMW about that, because my brake pads are wearing down differently, and I'm going to have to get them to look at that and find out why it's not working. I mean, I can't actually, right, that's moved back in a bit, so if I can give that a bit of a clean now. Right, that's that top one moved ever so slightly. So I'm hoping that now that I've got it to move, that as I pull the brakes again, it'll move a bit more. I can see it wanting to move, but it's just not. So that's a question for BMW. So I've given the brake calipers and pistons a clean. So what I've got to do now, and this is why I have the Brake Clean Pro Cleaner, is to give it a final clean and spray this. It's perfectly safe for your pistons and the calipers. So I'm just going to give it a spray with this, and then hopefully that'll get some more of the crap off. Now before I do that, I'm just going to get some towel, protect the wheel. So I'll do it like that, and then just give a good spray. See, it forced some crap out where the pistons are, which is great, which is exactly what I want. And this is great because this will give the pistons and calipers another thoroughly good clean. Get all that soapy water out as well. There's still a bit in there. Right, that's the calipers internally clean now. So the thing that we need to do now is to put the brake pads back in the way that they came out. That one goes on the left. Put the bolt back through, remembering the spring, of course. Now remember that the spring, the arrow there, look, this bit points upwards and this bit presses down into the calipers. So that goes back in there like that. Bolt goes through. I'll take a little time just to take your time, line up the screw properly. Right, that's in. That's nice and tight. So, brake calipers are now, or the brake pads inside are a little bit off centre. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to move those so that we can get them back on. And then just give a wipe around where some of the gunk has gone onto the bike itself. So just give that a clean. And now they should slide back on lovely. There we go. I'm just going to give the bolts a bit of a clean and put Loctite, just a little bit of Loctite on there. That's the top one, so that's going to go on first. There's that one. Just spread that in. In that goes. There we go, that's the top one done. There we go. So there we go, that's the calipers back on, cleaned and secure. I do have one question for BMW about why the one piston is not moving, so that's one thing that I do need to get checked out. You can understand why now it's important that you are able to do this yourself, have the confidence to do it. You don't need many tools, have the confidence to do it. And that way, I wouldn't have known that that piston was not moving if I hadn't decided to clean my brake calipers. And this is why it's so important. So I can see the uneven wear on my brake pads. And this is why it's so important that as a motorcycle owner, you get used to doing jobs like this, even if you're not a mechanic in your past. I've got no experience in these types of things, but have the confidence to do it yourself. If you've got any questions or comments, leave them down in the description down below. Email me at billysbikeadventures@gmail.com for any other questions. But in the meantime, hope that's been helpful. Thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you again very soon.